If you want to know how my last image in the Spielert film was created, then just watch this movie where I will explain everything else to you. We will see each other again after the intro. See you soon. Yes, dear viewers, as Graf Schlange announces, we will now moving on to the image composing process, which I showed you in the last speed-up film. I'll go through this composition relatively quickly with you. So it means I'm not just explaining to you where the layers are, but we're really going through the entire composition. And just redesign the image again, and we will become one. Use two images that I have photographed. Once a picture in Italy, the landscape that I have photographed. And the picture we then generated in Photoshop into a cave, so to speak. Just let yourself be surprised. Then I photographed another person. I was just out and about with my camera. I saw a person who was fully packed with luggage wonderfully. And yes, seems to have been a globetrotter, and I took a picture of him from the back. Then I can really use the person freely. I have actually already done my other. Used in another composing the person, and then we'll be in Blender, generate a cave with free 3D software. This is something we cannot do in Stager. We have to do this beforehand in the 3D program again. Do it separately. I will use Blender for that. And there I don't go into every detail, and afterwards I will do this in Adobe Paint. I would say, let's not talk any longer. We're going to the monitor now, and we're starting with the image montage. Okay, let's go. Hello, dear viewers. For all the viewers who are used to me talking a lot when I make my videos, today you will hear me talk, but I will go through everything very quickly. In fact, you saw my speed art movie in the last movie, and today is about this picture. And first I'm going to show you the starting material, and then I'll show you my entire workflow, how I achieved this result. However, I will keep it a bit shorter, so maybe I won't have such a great result as Italy. And yes, I'll just get started. And now I will open my initial image by dragging it into Photoshop. I am using the beta version. And yes, in essence, it is now a composing originated from photography, because I photographed the picture, I photographed the person. Then we will go into Blender in between and generate a cave. Bake the whole thing in Painter briefly, that's what it's called. Then we will go into the stager, we'll texture and render the whole thing. And afterwards we are going back into Photoshop and we'll do a bit with AI. Yes, and off we go. What more do I need to say? First thing I need to do with this image, I now have to make sure that I remove the disturbing elements here. I do it quite simply by taking this selection tool, mounting the frame. Generate generative fill. In my opinion, this is now the fastest. Of course, I could also do this with the cloning stamp, but that's the way I think it's quickest. The whole thing obviously takes a bit of time. And then I will also remove the whole thing again with generative filling. And then we have already prepared the image as far as possible and removed all forehead elements. So 3, 2, 1, there we have it. Next I want to expand the image. The lock will also open. Then we will be here. Take the selection tool. And I would like to here, nothing should be entered for the ratio. I would like to expand the whole thing a bit further out so that I go more towards a panorama. I will do that here with generative expansion. So set it up here, generative expansion, confirm with OK. And now it'll calculate a bit more for me. It's not all that bad. Maybe the resolution isn't as great as in the rest of the picture. Yeah, we know that by now. That the resolution is not so great then, but it doesn't bother in this picture. No. Next I will interpolate the picture a bit, make it bigger. This is important because otherwise I will end up with too low resolution. So I go to image size and I want to increase this by 10%. Now for this I need to click this lock symbol here so it happens proportionally, and I put now here at 100%. enter 110%. So now this will be enlarged by 10% height and width. I do the same thing again. You will soon understand why I did this. Once again, 110%. The process of adjusting image size is a bit complicated, but in my opinion, it produces better results. Okay, the whole thing has become a bit bigger now. Let's see what final height I have in pixels. Yes, we can do it all over again, so another percent, 110%. Okay, and that should be enough for this film. I might even do it a few times more, but it should be enough for what I'm planning now. I'm going to reduce everything back to the background, reduce it to the background, because I really just want to have one level at the very bottom. No, I want to sharpen this a bit, and for that I will go into Lumina under the filters. Lumina, of course, you can do it differently. Yes, this is not supposed to be a movie about sharpening, because the picture is a bit blurry. I took it by hand. It was relatively gloomy somehow, and yes, exactly. I also go to work. Now I'm going to apply the super sharpening. I think it's great, and I want to do it in high resolution, considering it's a relatively large image now. So it takes a little while for this to be calculated, and I must say I'm totally thrilled with the sharpening here in Lumina. Let's take a look. After, it's already a lot sharper before, so after, so I like it this way. I confirm that, apply and bam, the picture is sharpened. I'm unlocking the lock again. So in the next step, I go back again. I just want to have this effect here. This effect where I basically now roll up the image so that it looks like a cave. This is done as follows. First, you go into the image size. Let's see what I have here in height, because I need to match the width with the height. Or to equalize, however, I first have to unlock the lock again and now have to enter the same number at the top as I have at the bottom. So 5481 and confirm. Now it looks like this. Now one might ask, what is this now? Yes, we would like to know. Namely, go to the filters next, then to the distortion filters, and then to polar coordinates.
How?
And here I take the upper rectangle polar and confirm that with, okay, now it looks like this. But has to change this to transparent now, so that nothing is calculated for me now. And I'll crop this a bit. We don't need so much. This obviously makes the image a bit smaller. Should be no problem. I'm going to embroider that with OK. And now the whole thing looks like this. And we have an image size now of 4619 times 4491. Oh, it's supposed to be like that. Well, I could, of course, now cut it proportionally exactly the same so that I have a square, but I didn't want to go into that much depth right now. So next, I want to eliminate this error here and these errors here. Here too, I simply go there, pull here now. No, we do it differently. Cancel failure. For this, I take my lasso. So this corner is supposed to be filled with what we see here. So I then go to generative filling. Generating this whole thing takes a moment, and then we have everything nicely filled out. I hope it works the first time. Yes, the whole thing always takes a little while, even if you have a powerful computer like I do. So next I will reduce this back to the background layer, because we can save a lot of data this way. Okay, what are we doing next? Next, I want to eliminate this disruption. For this, I'm now taking my selection rectangle. I'm just gonna copy this page right here. So let's do it this way with a lot of meat on it, so we can mask out a bit more right now. Right click, layer by copy, and now I'm going to mirror it horizontally, transform it, mirror horizontally, and select everything. Go to free transform here and now pull the whole thing over here. Where is it now? Here, like this. Okay, that actually looks good right away. Theoretically, you could even take it over directly without masking. Confirm. Place the mask here at our level and brush with black color. Again, about 25% soft edge. I will do this now. Mask out, so we have a soft transition here. So I just want to get rid of this disruption in the middle. Everything else can be seen here as it was before. I think you can't see anymore that anything was faked back then. Then I will overlay an empty layer here again, and then I go to my clone stamp and I'll set the opacity a bit higher for the whole thing. I need a soft edge again. Yes, a soft edge is in, and I'll now here remove this edge here. Of course, it automatically came up top when we turned the picture over, but that won't be a problem. We'll get it quickly adjusted with the clone stamp. And I'm going to put all of this back on a background layer, reducing it to the background layer. Voila. And now the lock opens again, and we have our base image finished so quickly. The whole thing goes, the whole story. Yes, and if we zoom in here now, I find it all nicely sharp too. It's supposed to be a bit foggy, the whole story. So I can now save this image as a JPEG. Theoretically, I no longer need this Photoshop file because we need to continue with a JPEG now. Why? You'll see that in a moment. So I'm opening it. Alternatively, well, yes, you could do it this way too. I'm going to save a copy here. Otherwise, you can't select the JPEG here. And we're just going to put this whole thing on the desktop now. Yes, I want to save it in full size. And now we can close Photoshop. And the Photoshop file here, or this file, because we don't need a Photoshop file. We don't need it anymore. Okay, I'm going to hide bridge now, and here we have now our picture. Okay, next we're going to go into Blender because I want to generate my cave now. So let's get started. This is not supposed to be a Blender tutorial, but for those who have used Blender before, then you know my way how I do it. And for all those who don't know Blender, I won't go into any details here, as I already mentioned at the beginning. So I'm going to delete these cubes first. I don't need it because I need at mesh. I would like to add a cylinder now. For that, I now go here to scale, drives the whole thing a bit. Make it longer, then I don't have the problem later in editing that this might be too small for me. Later I will stretch the whole thing a bit in length. Okay, that should be enough. So next we need to go back to the editing mode. I'm going to click on this tab here. This allows me to select the interface here. Now I need to say right click. I want to delete the surface because I want to be able to look inside. On the other side I do the same. I select that, say delete surface. Now it looks like this. Now it's a pipe. And I go to select all, and then I go down here under my wrench, add modifications, and I want this whole thing to be a bit three-dimensional. So I click here once and say I would like to have a thickness in my surface. Then the whole thing has become a bit thick now. We see it looks like this now. You can't even imagine that a cave will come out of this, but I can promise you a cave will come out of it. So, and as the last step here in this mode, right click, and I now say soft equipping here so that everything here becomes a bit softer and we don't see all these corners. So, and once we have that, we then go up here to sculpting. I'm going to go on that now. And now I'm here, and now I'm going to model my cave a bit. This can be done excellently with this tool. Move, I click that. I'm going to choose a slightly larger radius, a bit larger again. And now I'm going to do the whole thing here, dent a bit everywhere. Yes, this is supposed to look like a rock later on. So, and for that, I now have to do this here. Just roughly deform the whole thing a bit. From up here, I can also push it in from the outside, this whole story. This is now called sculpting. So I'm going to keep this relatively short. Such features are not in Astasia. That's why I really like using something like this. By the way, I'm doing this with my mouse. Actually, you can do it excellently with a pen, but I'm just using the mouse now. So I want to go down a bit further here. I go once to this sign here, and I will just pull this little piece out a bit more down here, so that I can even have a small podium standing out a bit later. I'm pulling it out a bit more here, so later there's more room where the person could stand. So this should do it now. I'm not going to do anything more here. And I'm going to save this now by saying File. I will save this on the desktop, however in a folder. Yes, I will leave it here. Okay. So I call this Blender, and I would like to have this object in there now. We don't need to set anything else here. We just need to create a new folder and save it as OBJ. I click OK, and the whole thing is saved, and we can close Blender. We don't need to do anything more here. Close Blender. Don't save it. We're done with Blender. I'm going to arrange everything a bit on the desk so you can see where all my things are. Things are here, and next we need to bake this object, what we have now designed, the eggplant object. We have to convert the material, so to speak, so that it works properly in Starga later, and that is done in Painter. Surely you can do it in Blender, but I'm not a Blender expert, as I mentioned in the last film. Surely it works too, but I think it's enough. Painter, incredibly easy. Here is our object. We need to go into Painter now. I'm going to open that real quick. It'll be really fast. We'll be out of there in no time. Like so. Opening Painter. The whole thing takes a while. When I do a screen recording up here, all this is a bit tedious. So I can close this. I go to File. Choose from here, from the template that needs to be selected, and I think I choose. And now look here on my desktop, my Blender model, that's this one. Say OK, open. It's not opening yet. And yes, the resolution doesn't matter at all for now. We'll go into the data later and we can change the resolution at any time. But right now it's really important to go to options. And this needs to be selected here. We can check different things here. Recalculate all, UV islands. Recalculate all, pack, recalculate all. This always needs to be selected. And then we can click on OK and click OK. Loaded part here. I'm not going to go into what's here now. In Painter, everything can and must be done. The most important thing that we just need to do here is the only thing that I'm doing here now. I'm going to this sign up here. On selected textures, yes, I'm doing. This allows us to upload a proper material to the stage head later. Otherwise, we really have problems in Stagger. Then the materials are stretched out and everything looks very strange. And so we have a decent surface here. And now I'm not saving all of this, but I'm saying add to Stager. I'm doing that. I'm handing this over to Starga now. Adobe Stager is now being opened. And then I want to get into. We already have the part in Stager, so that a scene opens directly and we are in Stager. Sure, I want to import this with everything that's checked off here. Okay, there we have the part. One can't yet imagine that this is going to be our image. I'm now adding paint. We don't need this anymore. No, I don't need to save this either. I have it in here now. And I'm going to make the whole part a bit bigger now and turn it all around, as I will need it later. I want this surface to be at the bottom. The people's hair should be on it. I'm also choosing this part now. And now we're going into the cave. First of all, I'm going to load my image, my background image. That's mine. Import into scenes. And now I'm going to select my background image as background. And there I am going to my desk and I already have my background open. And voila, I have my picture here now. Wonderful. And that's what I want to have here. Then I go to match picture, and don't say now, as I've shown you before, that I tick everything here now. I don't want to take over the sunlight from outside, and I don't want to take over the camera's perspective. That definitely won't work well on stage. This, at least in this example here, it won't work because it's all too strange. But I want to match the image size. Yes, we see. We have now set a standard size of 1920 by 1080 here. I don't want that. I want to have my original image size. Good luck on OK. Then we get a camera setup here and we now have directly 4600 x 4400. I go up here on plus and say 3D assets in the marketplace. And then I want to have these rocks here. Crumbit rock. And then I don't need to go on download, but I say send to. Substance 3D Stager. How awesome is that now, please? This is now being loaded into Stager, and the whole thing takes a little while. We see this progress bar, and then we can directly access the material in our project where we are right now. Yes, we also see I've already licensed this here. This was already licensed before because I've already downloaded it once. So all this takes a bit of time now. Let's go to ray tracing. Then we can already see roughly what the whole thing will look like later. Yes, I'd say from dissolution or from repetition too large. So I would be all this now here in the repetition. Pull up a whole piece higher so we get smaller stones here. I'm going to lay everything out the way I need it now. Let's go transform here. And can now better assess the whole thing here if I now shift my controllers here. Here I can make everything a bit more precise. And I'm going to bring the whole thing down a bit now. So then that's already in place. The light is already bothering us. Let's go over here to this light switch. And now I can adjust the light a bit so I can see here. You would like the light. As we see, the light comes from behind. Now the light is really nicely falling in here. And next I will first of all, I go here to material. I take the highest resolution. Of course, you need a powerful computer for that. This will also take a moment now. If I click on it now, I can't do anything at the moment. Next, I'm going to here, while we're on the object, and say, I would like to have a shift in here. Now I'm clicking on this once, and this is how it will look at first. We can already see it's going to be very jumpy. I don't want it like that, but I want a rock structure here. We have already achieved that, but I'm going to leave the ray tracing here. Click out of here now, and we'll see that it all looks like this. But I don't want it this way now. That would be a bit too much for me. So now we go into the materials. I'm going to say that the resolution is being changed. I'm scrolling all the way down. I want to set the normal a bit higher so that we can get more structure in here. We won't see that now. We'll see it in ray tracing. And then I go up to the level. I have to go further down like this. Then these peaks get a bit shorter. And I can change a bit here now. I can change the elevation levels, but we can see we're really getting this field structure in here wonderfully. Yeah, so this is not just a smooth surface now. Here you just have to try out what you like best. I don't really like that. I'd rather go back. And if we now look at the whole thing this way, okay, I'm doing some ray tracing so we can see the whole thing. And guys, now look at this. If it doesn't look like the rocks, I think now I have it on the edge, still no rocks to be seen, so I actually have to go to my object again now. And I need to make the whole thing a bit narrower now. So scaling it, I need to open this lock icon so I can scale it individually. And now I'm here. I am going to change the whole thing a bit by shrinking it all together here, so that I can also see something from the side of the cave. A little bit in. I will then position the whole thing from the position. I'm going to shift this a bit more. Now I'm going to shift it a bit to the right, and then I'm going to zoom in a bit more so we can get a closer look. Adjust the light again. I feel like my cave here is still not visible enough. Now we see even less. We really need to, now light comes into play. That's exactly what I want. Now we see a bit of the cave. Wonderful, like this. But there is still too little light up here for me. So now we are going to the lights. And I'm going to take a spotlight now. I'll pull it in here, put it down here. And apparently we're supposed to be here, not where it's glowing now. Yeah, but I have to go up here first. So I want to cave up top. I want to light it up a bit more. To do that, I need to drag this whole story into the cave a bit more. So now I get it. I see the light is slowly coming on up there. We see the light is coming. And then I'll go to the environment here and here. I'm going to choose the lights, and of course, make the whole thing much less intense. The great thing about this program now that yes, I am here in the wrong light source. I've made it darker here now. Of course, I need to go to my spot. So now I have only indicated the light up here. I just want to leave it like this now. I'm going to drive this whole thing in a little more. So drive up closer here and now. By the way, I did that with the mouse wheel, that I just bring the scene a little closer now. The background image stays where it is. So here we have the picture. So, and if we take a look at this in large, then please take a look at how great this looks. So we won't be able to photograph this anywhere. That's why I think it's so great that the possibility here of building something like this in 3D, and yet relatively simple if you know how it works. If I wanted to show you everything in this movie now, then we would certainly need another 20 minutes. How I incorporate the person into this picture and how I incorporate the eagles there, I did that with artificial intelligence. I created myself and the person. I just photographed myself at some point. But that, as I said, is part of the next film. And then we'll see each other again next time. See you then.